Good afternoon. The idea now, and I have no material in here yet, but the idea here is reality. Now, we've always heard of, there's the type of people who believe that the world revolves around them, right? Which is not accurate at all because they're inside of the world and the world or spinning or whatever it is. You've heard of that when people say, oh, this person thinks the world revolves around them. In my opinion, should you ever select somebody to have the world revolve around them, maybe you should really kind of think it over. And I'll tell you right now, I wouldn't want the world to revolve around me. Now, if that was the reality, that the world was revolving around me, I mean, I'd probably try to use it to my advantage. I'd probably be like, okay, how can I use this to my advantage? How can I make this bring me something good? Or how can I get something out of this, something positive for myself? But, you know, we all know realities change. Like really fast. Realities change fast and they change all the time. Now, my reality, let's say that was my reality, that the world was revolving around me. How would I feel? What would I think, right? Well, I've already said I would try to get something out of it. Now, should the world stop revolving around me? Or should I be able to see and feel and sense what is actually real? I think it's probably better. I think that's probably better, that I can actually, you know what I mean? To actually, and that's exactly what's going on. It's not that I was in a false reality. It's that I was a type of person who had zero input in society or zero presence. And on top of that, I hadn't grown ever in my whole life. So I was pretty much in the same basic mindset that I was when I was a small child, which doesn't really make things real great for me. And the fact that I look like an adult or that I behave like an adult or I do things or I'm willing to do things at like crazy levels kind of makes it difficult to spot. You know, there's people who I wouldn't be surprised if they thought I was a scam artist, or you know what I mean? Like if I was just scamming people, pretending to be really dumb and basic, but that, you know, and even with the way I move, but I'm like so much more than that, and I'm hiding who I really am, and I'm like, you know, I could be like a boss, or I could be like, you know, the coolest guy in the world, but I'm, you know what I mean? People really started. Some people are a bit of a, you know, and I'm not saying they don't actually do fraud or scam. That's not what I mean. But they might scam people. They might scam people into, you know, believing what they want to believe or whatnot in order to get something for themselves, right? So they might look at me and be like, wow, he's a genius. This is phenomenal. Wow, he's doing such a great job of acting like that, you know. Or how did he bring up this accolade from people or this recognition? You know what I mean? And it wasn't true at all. It wasn't true at all. I was at that basic level. That's where I really was. I was unable to pass that same basic mindset that I had as a child. I just experienced things more. So once I would experience it, I would go on to a new field, another level. Let's say of a field that's more difficult, for example. I would go to that field. You know what I mean? And I went pretty high. I mean, before my time even started being counted, I had done a bank robbery. And once it was being counted, I was still moving. So that's what it is. You know, I really was in that basic mindset, and I wasn't conning anybody. But back to the point, I could basically make a bit of I can't make the world revolve around me, but I can make some people revolve around me. I can make a few people revolve around me. You know what I mean? So the way I always treated life was, even when I was a kid, was that if I lived wherever I lived, let's say, so in 6th grade, I remember we had a homeroom, right? And I remember we got there on our first day of class, and we were in the gymnasiums, all the 6th graders. All the kids who had graduated from 5th grade before summer, and we're now starting in 6th grade. And I remember sitting there waiting to hear where I would be called to, which class I would go to. And I think there were about 8 different classes of, I don't know, 25 kids each. So what, 200, around 200 kids. It might have been more. I don't really remember. But anyways, they called my name, and unfortunately, so they had classrooms inside of the school, and I didn't get in one of those classrooms. They had like these two. They called them portables. They were like trailers. You know how people live in trailers? It was a portable, like a trailer turned into a classroom. So unfortunately, I was one of the few who went into that shitty they called it a portable. And that was my homeroom. So 90% of all my class, like except for doing gym class or something, all of my classes were in that portable. Okay. And that was like my home class. I was hesitant, and I didn't want to wander into the school. So I literally never went to the school. I stayed in that portable. And because I lived close to the school, I would just go home and play video games. So I didn't have to make friends. I didn't have to hang out at lunchtime. I didn't have to try to get money. I didn't even have money, but I didn't try to get money to buy McDonald's. We had a McDonald's where a lot of kids would go to, and I never would go to McDonald's. I didn't have any money to go to McDonald's, I'll admit it. I never had, you know how I used to get money? I used to find like a loonie or a quarter on the ground, and I used to collect it. Sometimes in the vending machine, I used to put my fingers in, and I would get a dime or 15 cents or something. And literally, that was one of the ways that I collected money, was I used to collect change off the ground, or change that people didn't want, or change people dropped or whatever. And I would collect the change, and then I would go pay, like I would buy, back then we had those Freezies, the flavored ones that were 50 cents. So I'd collect 50 cents, and oh, nice, I get to buy a Freezie on a summer day. That was my life, yeah, really. But the point is that I was in that same mindset that I was in all the time. Now, the thing with me was I didn't want to go into the world, but whatever world was around me, I would keep my maximum patience. And once my patience failed, I would behave the way I wanted to. So it would look like I was kind of running things, which was not the case at all. That's just who I like naturally was. And when I couldn't stop being who I was or be patient enough, I turned into myself. That's how it was. But the point is that I was always in that basic mindset. I wasn't trying to con anybody. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, I was good looking. Okay, but what does that matter? That doesn't really matter that much. You know, you look in this world, there are good looking people who get the worst of things. There are good looking people who get that. You know, that's not the big deal. It's not the biggest deal out there is how good you look. So, but I wasn't conning anybody, you know. One thing with me, and I will be honest with you, and I really found this out about myself, is that I learn things naturally. I remember once, you know, getting thrown into the deep end of the pool, having never gone into the water, and just doggy paddling my way to the ledge and getting out. And guess what? I never learned how to swim. They sent us to classes, swimming classes from the school, and I was always at level 1. Literally, hey, I'm not even joking. That was called level 1. I was in level 1 swimming, and all I knew how to do was doggy paddle. Okay? And they tried teaching me, and I couldn't learn. So all the other kids, like some of the kids already knew how to swim. They were in like level 4, level 5. And all these kids went ahead. I think it was me and maybe 1 or 2 other kids. And one of them, I think, was actually mentally challenged. Maybe. I might not be wrong. Maybe he had some kind of a mental disability. And we were always in level 1. Year after year after year, I was always in level 1 swimming. And I couldn't learn how to swim. When I got older, like level 1s kind of unlock things for you. So I'll tell you, so things coming naturally. You know, when it came to level 1s, I understood everything. When it came to mathematics, when it came to even gangster shit or whatever, it would just naturally come with me. I would just start making signs, and I would just know that stuff because that's who I was. Right? And so that was the case. So they called it level 1, level 2. And I was at level 1. I never went past level 1. I couldn't pass the test because I couldn't swim. I could just doggy paddle to save my life, but I could not swim. And that is the actual reality about me. I couldn't swim. I couldn't skate. All the kids were skating. I was the only kid. I used to grab onto the ledge in the beginning because they forced me to go in there. I said, I don't want to go in there. And the teacher said, you have to go into the skating rink with skates on. So I put the skates on and I grabbed the ledge and I stood there for about half an hour, literally. I held the ledge for about half an hour, and then when all the kids were done, we were able to leave the skating rink. All right. And I think I've told you, we had these math tests, which were based on 50 questions, which were mixed with subtraction, addition, multiplication, and division. You had 10 minutes to complete it. And I was the fastest one, doing it like a minute 25 or whatever, out of everyone, to the point that I was beating the fucking teacher who had been teaching it for like 30 years. He'd been teaching that class for 30 years and I beat him. But that's how good I was at level 1 of anything. You know what I mean? So that was the case. I always managed to, I had low standards, but I always managed to keep up with my standards. Yeah, so that pretty much explains. I wasn't trying to con anybody. And now when people see me, and I've seen some people look at me, you know, and they look at, you know what kind of look I get is like maybe they didn't see me from last year, and they look at me and they go, what a fucking con artist. He was just pretending to be dumb. And like, he didn't understand anything. And look at him understanding everything now. Look at this fucking asshole. It's like, listen, dude, I'm being genuine, man. I don't know what to tell you, man. I am not your average human being, man. I'm not saying that I have special powers, which I know people have special abilities and whatnot. And I'm not claiming to have any of that. But what I'm telling you is that I wasn't playing you, dude. I was not playing you. I was not pretending. Everybody thinks I'm pretending just because I got swag, and they're thinking that, you know, with this swag, it's so obvious. No, I really was at that level. I couldn't comprehend or understand basic things. You know, when people talk to each other and they hint each other, I didn't get any of that. I'm starting to pick up on it now because I'm starting to actually grow. You know, I didn't have that ability before. I literally didn't. People think I was playing them. Pretending to be an idiot. No, I was not pretending to be an idiot, man. I was not pretending to get off. I really was in a basic mindset. I could not think outside of that. You know, and I wasn't bullshitting about that at this point. And you know what? It can insult people a lot, because if you're at a basic mindset and you start beating them at their own games, they can become very frustrated. It can really frustrate people. Like, the individual's ego gets really, like, how can this basic, immature, low-level runt defeat me? Like he's killing my ego right now. You know, he's absolutely destroying my ego. You know what I mean? But I wasn't doing it on purpose. Now I'm actually growing genuinely. So I am picking up on things. I am understanding things. Because I'm changing and growing, which I've never done in my life. You know, I've never done that. So that's what it is. But I gotta tell you, I do have a different outlook on life. I've been told that I have a very optimistic, positive kind of way of looking at life, and I tried the negative, and that was just a level 1 negative to try out. But it's not that I'm positive. I don't like to feel hurt over small things. You know what I mean? I try to keep my ego healthy so that I don't feel hurt. For example, if I lose or if I don't do as well at something, you know, when I told you, when I was a kid, the teacher put on Prince and the Pauper, man. You know what I mean? And I have a very humble side to myself. Even the ego thing was a level 1, just to try having an ego. But I am a very humble person. Typically, I am humble. But these 7 years, the year leading up to robbing that bank, then robbing that bank, and the 7 years after have made me naturally just way better at everything. Which I would have always been had I have figured out how to remove that shell or get out of that shell. Now that the shell is destroyed, all there is for me is to grow. So that's a genuine thing. You know, if you ever talk to kids that knew me as a kid, they would probably tell you this in the video I posted last night. They would tell you it's 100% accurate. They would tell you that's how he really is. They tell you that's genuinely how he is. And that we never knew any kid like that, but nobody bothered because he kept to himself, and somehow he successfully kept to himself, and he was successfully able to avoid any kind of social interactions with any of us. But we all observed him. Okay? Does that make you feel good, or does it make you feel good? Well, I'm going to say good afternoon again, and I'm going to wrap this up.